Alright guys, and welcome back to the Don's channel. I am the Donfather and I've got a brand new Geography Now reaction video for you. This time it's the Netherlands, or Holland as some people incorrectly call it. And this video was made, of course, by Geography Now. If you like their stuff and you like this reaction video to their stuff, please subscribe to them because they're doing loads of good content from around the world and you'll definitely learn something, and it's humorous too. I can't wait to watch it. Of course, when you think of Holland, you think of football, people going to Amsterdam for recreational reasons, or tulips, just loads of stuff. The royal family in Holland, they've got just awash with loads of history and culture. And the good thing for me is with Holland, or Netherlands, or the Netherlands, is they speak probably better English than I do. And actually, I just noticed this jumper I'm wearing is kind of like the Netherlands flag as well, isn't it? So anyway, that's just a meaningless point there that I've just put in. I can't wait to react to this. This is only about a week old. Geography Now's just put this up, so it's pretty fresh, and I'm looking forward to doing it. Let's do this. Let's go.
Hey guys, so this is going to be a little awkward. Why? Because 2 years ago, my Dutch friend Vincent, who used to do the animations before I regrettably hired Ken...
Wait, what?
He came and visited here in LA. Long story short, I promised him he could be in the Netherlands episode, so we pre-shot some footage, and this was the intro we made. I flew over. This guy, a real Dutchman, say hi to Vincent. Right here. Hey, Vincent. Hey, look. Vincent, I know the Dutch are tall, but just step down from the box. Okay? Just step down.
You get off of your box then. Good for me.
I can never top those days. Oh, and this episode is on the Netherlands.
It's time to learn geography.
Now! Everybody, I'm your host, Barbs. Now, there are many countries that deal with water issues. Some lack water, some have too much water.
Amsterdam is literally on water, isn't it? Damn.
How to control the water and use it to their advantage. Water is probably the most powerful element in the Netherlands.
And Rotterdam as well.
I don't know, pretty useless. So what do you say, 2016 Vincent?
En dan nu, politieke geografie.
So, yeah, stop calling this place Holland. That's just one part of the country.
It's a province.
The country's national tourism website is called Holland.com. You're not helping us here, Dutchies. Oh, and hey, there's a town called The Hulk. First of all, the country is located in northwestern Europe along the North Sea, bordered by Germany and Belgium. The country is divided into 12 provinces. Here's 2016 Vincent naming all of them for you.
They are Limburg, Noord-Holland, Zeeland, Zuid-Holland, Utrecht, Gelderland, Overijssel, Drenthe, Groningen, Friesland, North-Holland, and the newest province, Flevoland. Almost all of Flevoland was reclaimed from the Zuiderzee in the 1950s. So besides being famous for making cheese and clogs, we also make our own land.
The country kind of has two capitals. Amsterdam, the largest city and economic hub of the country, and home to the Royal Palace. And just to skip over, the third largest city, The Hague, acts as the second capital, which holds the seat of government, as well as the International Court of Justice. The second largest city, though, would be Rotterdam, which holds the busiest seaport in all of Europe. The busiest airport, though, is of course Amsterdam's Schiphol International, Europe's
It's
third busiest airport.
absolutely enormous, this airport in Amsterdam.
Annually. Now we reach
Get lost.
these territories. Apart from the mainland European part, the country actually holds sovereignty over 6 other island entities in the Caribbean, remnants of the colonial past. These are collectively called the Dutch Caribbean. And here's where it gets a little confusing. Technically, the Netherlands is a country made up of 4 countries, the mainland Netherlands, as well as 3 other constituent countries, kind of like what Wales and Scotland are to the UK. They are Aruba, Curacao, and Saint Martin, which is actually half of an island shared with the French overseas territory of the same name, but in French. This means that this one island is the only area which the Netherlands technically borders France. These guys hold a high level of autonomy. They can have their own constitution and currency. Otherwise, the remaining 3 islands are Bonaire, St. Eustatius, and Little Saba, which, by the way, has the shortest airport runway in the world. These 3 fall under the title of special and do not belong to any province. They are directly controlled by the Dutch government. However, in 2011, they decided to switch currencies and adopt the US dollar. All these islands lie in the subregion known as the Lesser Antilles. Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire are usually referred to as the ABC Islands, lying in the subregion of the Leeward Antilles, whereas St. Eustatius, Saba, and St. Martin, usually called the SSS Islands, are located in the subregion of the Leeward Islands. Keep in mind, at one point, all 6 of these islands were called the Netherland Antilles and operated collectively as a single constituent country with the capital at Willemstad in Curacao. They competed in the Olympics. With the exception of Aruba, who had autonomy in 1986, it wasn't until the early 2000s when they all voted for their future, and it kind of went like this. Okay guys, you have 4 options for your future. Choose wisely. You can have closer ties to us, remain just as you are in the Netherland Antilles, autonomy as a constituent country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, or you can opt for complete independence as a new nation and break away from us.
We vote for autonomy as constituent countries.
Me too. What the? We want closer ties and we'll settle for special municipality status.
Really, Bonaire? You're one of us, the ABC Island. You're really gonna ditch us like that and leave us with this half-Frenchy magoo?
Yep, deal with it. And that's basically how it went down. So there you go. That's how you make a Netherlands. Waterways dominate the country, though. There's even a town with no roads and only canals. But how did it end up this way?
Never
Somewhere
knew
around
that.
the 9th century, people were kind of fed up
So
with all
cool.
the flooding, and they invented these seawalls known as dikes, which surrounded polders or reclaimed land plots protected by the dikes. To this day, the Netherlands has reclaimed about
Quite a lot of people are called
landmass
Dike
from the sea.
as well, aren't
So
they?
what would happen if all the dikes were destroyed and all the water just came and flooded everything?
Scientists speculate that the country would go from looking like this to this.
Whoa, Amsterdam would be gone.
Yep. Luckily, the Dutch are fantastic engineers and have been taming this dragon for
They are
centuries.
very
And
good
speaking of
engineers.
engineering, there are so many notable spots to check out in case you ever visit. So many museums, but the most notable one probably being the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, the Royal Palace, the Van Gogh
Beautiful
Museum,
Royal Palace.
Anne Frank House, numerous castles like these, numerous star-shaped fortress towers,
Wow.
so many amusement parks like these, the enclaves and exclaves of Barrel Nassau. We
I've
talked
never
about this
seen
in the
these
Netherlands
places
episode,
before.
The world's largest flower garden.
I know
at
that about the
Austerlitz
tulips.
Pyramid, this prehistoric burial site, and of course there are somewhere around 1,000
Windmills.
historic
I was gonna
windmills
say that at
left
the
in
start.
country from the 1800s.
They're
Most of
amazing
the
looking, aren't
Dike
they?
area a UNESCO heritage site. Keep in mind though, the country has a ton of modern wind turbines that help supply energy to the nation, a topic that will be discussed in Greek
Physical
philosopher
geography.
Pythias visited in the 3rd century BC, and he said about this place, more people have died in the struggle against water than in the struggle against men. The Netherlands is really
Wow.
unlike any other country in Europe because in order for them to even have physical land, a lot of work has to go into it. For one, the country is the lowest country in Europe, elevation-wise. Over a quarter of the land and a fifth of the population lies below sea level, and about half of the land lies less than a meter above sea level. The lowest
Wow.
point actually being here at Zuidplaspolder, and the highest point of the mainland European part of the country.
If there was
is
any
a
like
small
form
hill
of
called
tsunami or
Valsburg,
anything,
just
you could
over
imagine it
1,000
just
feet
washing the
to
Netherlands away,
high.
couldn't you?
However, in the entire kingdom of the Netherlands, the highest point would actually be Mount Scenery, a potentially active volcano on the island of Saba in the Caribbean. Back to mainland Europe though, within this complex system of waterways and canals, the famous Rhine River that goes through all of Europe and the longest in the country actually ends in Rotterdam. The largest body of water would be Lake or Bay Ijsselmeer, contained within the N302 and E22 highways. In order to manage all the flooding in the south though, the Netherlands has undergone one of the largest engineering projects in modern history. The Delta Works is a series of massive elevated levees that close off sea estuaries, preventing flooding. They even have backup levees in case one down the line bursts. In the north though, the Walden Islands act as kind of like natural barriers against the sea. All this land reclamation
This is
has left
very
many of the
interesting.
inland areas exposed to what are labeled as the largest open sand drifts in Europe. Keep in mind, they are not deserts, but rather strange wet sandy plots in the middle of green shrubbery. A rare natural sight to come across anywhere in the world. So in a nutshell, the entire country is basically one big river delta.
We should hang out sometime.
Whew, so that's just about it for now. I gotta get my triple shot of espresso break, which means we need a guy who knows a few things.
Lame joke, dude.
Besides all the water chaos, the Netherlands is quite a powerful nation considering its size. They rank in the top 20 largest world economies, usually around 17th or 16th place, and they rank somewhere in the top 5 to 10 largest exporters on Earth. In fact, they have the
Wow.
oldest stock exchange in the world, dating back to 1602.
Didn't that lead to like the whole tulip mania thing where people sold a single bulb for the price of like an entire ship?
That was not the stock market, that was just a socio-economic phenomenon, and at its height sold for 10 times the annual wage of a skilled craftsman. Anyway, today, although they produce about 80% of the world's tulips and over half
It's
of the
like
world's
gold, nearly a
flower
tulip bulb.
exports, their economy is mostly driven by the service and energy sectors. After the discovery of a natural gas field in 1959, the Dutch became a fuel powerhouse. The Shell company became the largest and most internationally recognized Dutch company in the world. Besides the petroleum industry though, the Dutch are well known for their electronics and tech innovation. The company Philips
Loads
invented
of machines come out
to
of
help pioneer other
Netherlands.
formats like videotapes, CDs, DVDs, and Blu-rays.
Yeah, the company was Dutch, but keep in mind it was invented in Hasselt, Belgium.
Oh, Belgium. We love you, but don't try to take this from us.
Otherwise, the Dutch have made great strides towards environmental protection. It's not uncommon to find animal crossing bridges to allow wildlife to cross over highways. Over 70 mammal species exist
Wow,
here,
that's
such as
absolutely
bears,
brilliant
hedgehogs,
idea.
goats, and deer. In addition, according to their government website, they produce over 65 billion euros in vegetable, fruit, flour, meat, and dairy products. Speaking of which, the modern
They're a
orange-colored
food
parrot was
powerhouse.
originally bred orange here in the Netherlands to specifically honor the king. Since then,
The king of
parrots
orange.
are now kind of an international
They were
standard.
never orange,
Speaking Speaking
care
of
it's the
which,
Dutch made them that
some
way.
top notable dishes you guys, the Dutch geography suggested we mentioned, include things like various types of stamppot, Dutch pancakes with powdered sugar,
Love them.
tarts, bitterballen, split pea soup, rookworst, stroopwafels. So many potato dishes, brined herring and smoked eel. Gin was invented here. Sorry, Brits. For breakfast, chocolate sprinkles
was
on
invented
toast is common.
Oh,
And the pride and joy of the
Netherlands.
nation, Gouda cheese. Yep,
Irish.
that's how you pronounce it, guys. Oh, and keep in mind, they used to be the largest beer exporters in the world, Heineken being their top brand until Mexico beat them in 2010.
Mexico does more beer.
It's also
Wow.
important to note that you will probably find lots of Indonesian and Surinamese dishes like satay or salted cod buns. A little
Wow.
cultural cue that hints towards the colonial past, which brings us to...
Of course, if you know anything about Indonesia, you'll know
Follow him on Instagram.
colonial rule of the Dutch. So obviously they've got their food.
That just happened. Now in Europe,
Inspirations
you have
from
all
there.
different types of people that operate with all different customs and ideologies. Here they have two sayings that kind of sum up how a lot of their country operates. Meten is weten and gezelligheid kent geen tijd. How is that, Dutchies? Terrible? Good? Well, you're gonna get what I give. Anyway, the country has about 17.5 million people and is the most densely populated nation in Europe. About 77% of the population identifies as Dutch, to whatever extent that may mean, whereas 10% are other Europeans, and the remainder are made up of other people groups, mostly Turks, Indonesians, as well as the Surinamese, and surprisingly, even some Americans. They use the euro as their currency, they use the type C and F plug outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road. Now, we all know that Dutch is the official language of the Netherlands. However, if you speak English, you should have no problem at all visiting.
their
Netherlands has the
English is
highest proficiency in
phenomenal.
English out of any non-English official country in the world. Somewhere around 9 out of 10 Dutch people claim they can comfortably speak English, and around 94% of the country is in some way bilingual. Geography Anna told me a joke. Many times Dutch kids will ask their parents,
Hey Mom,
Yes, honey.
why do we have to learn English, but the British don't have to learn Dutch?
Because our ancestors decided it would be a great idea to trade New York for Suriname and one small island in Indonesia.
It's important to note, though, that there are two other regional languages accepted in Dutch society. They are Frisian, spoken in the northern Friesland region, and the other being Papiamento, a Dutch Creole spoken in the ABC Islands. And it's already kind of well known that the Dutch are the tallest people on average in the world, men averaging around 6'1" and women around 5'7". And once again, here's 2016 Vincent.
Does he eat all the
explaining.
Latest
vegetables?
studies have shown that natural selection has been the biggest reason. Being tall is equal to being more athletic, successful, and healthy. Many educated men start families after their studies. Fast forward a couple of years, with length being very heritable, and the result is a nation of giants. Yeah, we're outbreeding short people.
Religion in the Netherlands is interesting because historically they used to be predominantly Christian, mostly Protestant, but today about half the population identifies as unaffiliated, which depending on who you ask could be anything from the largest unaffiliated group, agnostics, at about 34%, to the growing number of eiatists at around 28%, which is kind of like a technical term for spiritual but not religious. Otherwise, Islam at about 5% of the population is mostly practiced by Turkish and Indonesian communities. Christianity, although not practiced regularly by most of the people, still plays a heavy cultural role in the Netherlands. Holidays like Christmas, Easter, Pentecost, and Ascension are still celebrated by everyone in a Dutch manner. At one point, they were a vast empire that spanned across every inhabited continent. Australia was at one point called New Holland, New Zealand, named after the Zeeland province, Tasmania, named after this Dutch guy, New York was once called New Amsterdam, and so on.
Right.
Otherwise, what is the Dutch way of doing things? Many of you guys, the Dutch geography peeps, have told me there's a Dutch saying, act normal, which is ironic considering that they are almost anything but normal. And here's random Hannah to explain culture stuff.
Historically, the Dutch have always kind of had a counter-traditional mindset that shaped the way they developed as a nation. For one, they are one of the few remaining monarchies left in the world, technically a unitary parliamentary constitutional monarchy that limits the royal powers. And the people generally like their king. He even has a holiday to himself, and the entire country wears the national color of orange. Of course, the country is known for being a frontrunner in passing what many in the world see as controversial laws. They were the first country to legalize same-sex marriage, they have regulated legal prostitution, euthanasia, and they have a policy of tolerance toward recreational soft drugs like
So I
marijuana.
said recreational
People in
reasons.
Florida are allowed
People
up to
go
5
there.
grams on them, otherwise it's a misdemeanor. They are world-renowned for excelling in field hockey,
Unbelievable
speed
at hockey.
skating, and volleyball teams. Sailing is, of course, one of their
They're good in the
longest
velodrome as well, in the
They
bike,
even
aren't
have a
they?
huge festival once every 5 years called the Sailed Amsterdam Festival.
Wow,
for
look at
some
that, looks
reason, it's common
amazing.
for people to give birth in their own homes as opposed to a hospital. About
Oh,
1/3
right.
of all babies are born this way.
what about those clog things?
Ah, yes. Well, in the past, they actually served a very useful purpose. They were worn by farmers, fishermen, and artisans in the past to protect their feet from nails, fish hooks, and
Stones.
other sharp objects. Today, they are mostly sold as souvenirs,
Yeah,
and very
tourist
few people
attraction
actually
thing.
wear them, but they're pretty cool.
Oh, and hey Anna, what's up with all those spinny windmill thingy-mabobbers?
Ah, yes, the iconic symbol of the Netherlands. Well, many of these historic windmills were actually used to pump out excess water to reclaim the land that they now use for farming, all before electricity. And as for music...
Pretty ingenious, isn't it?
Actually, I got this one. Barb said I could have my own segment in the show now instead of just being a one-liner guy!
Yeah, that's right. Keith has been upgraded, so yeah.
Oh, well, enjoy it.
Well, that just happened. Again, I guess everybody has superpowers now.
Historically speaking, the Dutch contributed much to the Baroque period at the end of the Renaissance, with numerous composers, organ players, and vocalists rooted in Christianity. Traditional clog dancing was also a cool way to add.
Can you imagine the clunking off the concrete? It'd be so
Today, however,
loud.
even though there are many genres the Dutch enjoy,
They're into dance music, aren't they?
reigns supreme. Most of the best well-known
Tiesto and
DJs
stuff,
in
isn't
the
it?
EDM scene across the world are from the Netherlands. And the Amsterdam dance event, ADE, is the world's top and largest electronic
People
music
love it.
performance. So if you come out here, get ready to get shocked with some musical electricity.
Thank you, Keith. And speaking of the development of the Netherlands over time, let's talk about history in the quickest way I can put it. Hamburg and Bronze Age cultures, Iron Age with Celt and Germanic groups, Gallic Wars, the Romans come in, Frankish kingdoms, Charlemagne, blah blah blah. Friesland once had a Viking ruler, Lotharingia, Holy Roman Empire, confusing Burgundian and Spanish Habsburg and city-states, the Spanish takeover, Dutch revolt, 80 years of war against Spain, this dude is a hero, Golden Age and stock market, Dutch East India Company, exploring years, Dutch Empire, Napoleon drama, Belgium breaks away, Luxembourg breaks away, World War I, relatively neutral, World War II, attacked by Germans, not neutral, decolonialism after the war, mining golden age, founding co-members of the European Coal and Steel Community, which would later become the EU, government encourages over 500,000 people to move out, Euro adopted, and here we are today. Some notable people you guys, the Dutch geography people suggest we mention, might include people like William of Orange, the first king, Michael de Ruyter, possibly the most famous painters, Vincent van Gogh and
cut off his ear, didn't he?
Antony van Leeuwenhoek, Willem Barents, Abel Tasman, Anne Frank, Max
Anne Frank,
Verstappen,
yep.
Glennis Grace, Dick Bruna, these soccer players, these skaters,
Loads
and
of
course
good
the royal
football players.
family. And of course there's so many
Loads.
others I could have mentioned. Of course I butchered all the pronunciations, but we're really running out of time and we gotta finish this marathon. So without further ado, let's see who the Netherlands hangs out with.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now, there's a reason why it's called going Dutch when paying for a meal. The Netherlands likes to share. Systematic and mathematically equivalent to what is owed to each based on the merit they've earned. First of all, pretty much all the former colonies have some kind of amicable relation to the Netherlands. The Afrikaans language in South Africa is basically just an Africanized version of Dutch. Tons of Surinamese and Indonesians have been migrating to the Netherlands for decades. Otherwise, the USA and Canada are very close friends as well. During World War II, the royal family actually took refuge in Canada, and Canada actually quickly changed the law in which the hospital was temporarily considered extraterritorial so that the princess could be born Dutch. To this day, the Netherlands sends tons of flowers every year in gratitude. For the
That's
US,
incredible.
the two go way back all the way to New Amsterdam before it was New York. The Dutch have immigrated to the US for centuries. 5 American presidents have been of Dutch descent. They are each other's third largest direct foreign investors. They are both charter members of NATO since 1949. And overall, in most global affairs, the two usually work together as close allies. With Germany, it's like a funny love-hate relationship. Like the two share so much historically, both being under the same influences like the Western Roman Empire, the Franks, and even their first king, William of Orange, belonged to a German royal house. Then again, World War II was kind of like a jerk move, and the Dutch never really forgot about it. But nonetheless, they've moved on, and today things are fine. Germany is their largest trading partner, both in imports and exports. Many Germans and Dutch cross over and visit, study, live, and have families with each other's countries. When it comes to their best friend, however, almost every single Dutch person I have talked to has said their little brother they love picking fun on and calling stupid, Belgium. Or at least specifically the northern Flanders region of Belgium, where the Dutch speakers are. And many see the Flanders region as just an extension of the Dutch realm. The royal families love each other. King William Alexander even bestowed the Knight Grand Cross to King Philip and his wife. Flemish and Dutch people
This
have
is
been
brilliant, this
intermarrying and
video.
cooperating side by side
So
since
much
the beginning.
information.
Even after Belgium's independence, they've still clung on as the only 2 Dutch official-speaking nations in Europe. And even then, Belgium is only half Dutch-speaking, so they really can't afford to sever ties. In conclusion, the lowest nation in Europe with the tallest people on Earth, and with centuries of discovery, invention, innovation, and
They need to be
tradition,
tall.
it's no wonder why the Dutch say they
Keep their head above the water.
Stay tuned, New Zealand is coming up next. So once again, Vincent, thank you so much for being in this episode. Our favorite Dutchman, you have made your country proud.
Dutch punch!
That was superb. If you've enjoyed that video, guys, subscribe to Geography Now. They do so many good videos and it's very well put together and humorous at the same time. I love watching them. So that's the end of the video anyway. Geography Now Netherlands. Wow, so much information to take in, but I think the biggest thing I'll take away from it is how low it is, but being lower than sea level, and all the dikes that they build, which is like seawalls to stop the water getting in, because if they don't control the water, literally Netherlands as we know it would probably be underwater, because as I said, it is the lowest country in Europe, which is so fascinating. That's why when you look at all the names, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, most of the towns around the sea areas, or indeed even inland, are called dam, because they're damming the water. They control the water. If they don't control the water will control them. So basically there would be no agricultural land to farm on. So that there is a huge reason for having to have these dikes, as to, if you think of the production of fruit and vegetables and meat that they export to countries, they're huge in exporting food and meat and stuff like that. So if the sea wasn't controlled, the waters weren't controlled, there would be no trade in that sense. The tulip thing was very, very interesting. A tulip bulb, somebody in the video they said was more than a ship at one point. I don't know if that's true, but 10 times a man's salary a tulip bulb would go for, because it was like the sought after thing in the world. That's what I said before the video. I knew about the tulips, I just didn't know the sheer scale of what they were being sold at. But wow, that was very interesting. Obviously carrots as well. I was glad they pointed out the thing on carrots. Carrots were never orange. I'm not too sure of their original colour. I've seen them in purple and black carrots, but they were like genetically made to be orange for the Dutch king or something like that, and the colours of Holland, where it's all orange. Everybody in their football team would wear orange. Every kit that they wear in sports is orange to commemorate their royal family, their national colour. The Orange Army, isn't it? They've touched on royalties, they've touched on actually the fact that there's islands in the Caribbean that are still Netherlands, still part of the Netherlands, which is quite interesting. I suppose it's like something, if you're British, you've got the overseas territories like Gibraltar and stuff like that there, which are still part of the UK. And he says obviously with Scotland and Wales they make up with Britain and the UK and Northern Ireland, that kind of effect, but they're in the Caribbean and they're still part of the Netherlands, which is quite fascinating. Loads of cool stuff. We never touched on much about Indonesia. My channel does a lot of Indonesian content, and they were a colonial country for the Dutch hundreds of years ago, wasn't it really? And obviously the satay and all the different types of food that they're seeing selling in Netherlands has become quite a national dish for them, really. It was inspired by their colonial past of Indonesia, who now have their own independence. And that's a fascinating place too. So the Dutch have really got about the world, haven't they? I mean, they've had a huge impact in the modern world that we would see today, and in an engineering sense, they're absolutely incredible as well. Their economy is magnificent, and they're trading partners with the world, huge trading partners. Obviously, it's mentioned Germany, Belgium, so friendly ties, and obviously Canada, the US. So they're a very important nation today, and a country that I love. Probably more to do with the fact of sports, because if you look at their football players, technically, I always say, when you think of technically and a football player, I would say the Dutch make arguably the best technical players on the planet. When you look back at the likes of Van Basten, you've got more modern times Dennis Bergkamp, and even players like Van Persie, their touch is just incredible. Their first touch is amazing, of Ruud van Nistelrooy, and obviously that Ajax team of the past as well, and even the Ajax team right now, unbelievable young players coming through again, which is nice to see. And Holland is a country I've always liked, from not so far away, but from the UK. I've always loved Holland and the Dutch people. So that was an absolutely brilliant video. I hope you've enjoyed my reactions to it. I've enjoyed watching it. I've learned a lot. I don't know if I'll remember it all straight away, because there was a lot. The Netherlands is a very complex country with, obviously, as I said, their empire and stuff that they had, their colonial times. There's so much to take in history-wise. Fascinating place. But if anybody's got anything else they'd like to see me reacting to in terms of the Netherlands, please feel free to drop a comment in the section below. And if there was anything that you don't agree with in the video, leave a comment in the section below about that also, and that will help me learn more, because I'm eager to learn a little bit more about the Netherlands. And indeed, if there's anything else you'd like to see me reacting to, please feel free to do that as well in the comments section. And don't forget, guys, subscribe to the Don's channel, because we're going to be doing loads of cool stuff from around the world and you don't want to miss it, trust me. So put that notifications bell on so you're alerted to any future videos that we release onto our channel. Thanks for watching, guys. It's been a pleasure. I am the Donfather. Goodbye.